Lena Moretti had it all: a billionaire husband, a life of luxury, and a baby on the way. But in just one moment, everything shattered. As she sat in a private Milan clinic for her routine prenatal checkup, she saw something that made her world stop. Through the glass doors, just steps away from where she should have been celebrating her unborn child, she saw Matteo De Luca, her husband, wrapped in the arms of another woman. Who was she? A business associate? An old flame? Or something far worse? Lena had ignored the signs for too long: his late-night calls, the sudden business trips, the unexplained tension. But now, there was no denying it. Matteo wasn't just keeping secrets, he was living a double life. But if Matteo thought Lena would suffer in silence, he was wrong. Because she wasn't alone. She had 3 powerful brothers, men who controlled industries, the law, and even the shadows. And when you betray a Moretti, you answer to them. Betrayal, scandal, revenge. This is more than just a love story. It's a battle for power, justice, and the ultimate payback. Will Lena expose the truth and take back control, or will Matteo's secrets pull her into an even deeper trap? Stay tuned as we unravel a high-stakes drama of wealth, deception, and family loyalty. Hit like, share, and subscribe if you love gripping stories filled with passion, betrayal, and the kind of drama that keeps you on the edge of your seat. The battle has just begun. In a world of private jets, exclusive galas, and wealth beyond imagination, not everything that shines is gold. Meet Lena Moretti, a woman who once believed she had it all. Married to Matteo De Luca, a billionaire known for his sharp business acumen and extravagant lifestyle, Lena was eagerly awaiting the birth of their first child. But on a routine prenatal checkup, her perfect world shattered in an instant. Through the glass doors of the clinic, just steps away from her exam room, she saw him. Matteo, arms wrapped around another woman. The sight sent a sharp ache through her chest, the sting of betrayal seeping into her bones. The man who had promised her forever was indulging in a secret life, one she had been blind to until now. Lena wasn't the kind of woman to suffer in silence, especially not with 3 formidable brothers who had always stood by her side. She had grown up in a modest but loving home in Florence, Italy, raised by parents who valued integrity, resilience, and loyalty. Her father, Enzo Moretti, taught her that strength wasn't just about standing tall, it was about knowing when to walk away. Her mother, Bianca, instilled in her the belief that love should never come at the cost of self-worth. Despite their humble beginnings, Lena's brilliance earned her a scholarship to Oxford University, where she captivated everyone with her intelligence and quiet grace. Among those drawn to her was Matteo De Luca, heir to De Luca Enterprises, a global empire with stakes in luxury real estate, tech ventures, and high-end fashion. His charm was undeniable: tall, confident, and utterly captivating. Their whirlwind romance became the talk of European high society. Matteo was known for hosting extravagant yacht parties along the Amalfi Coast, whisking friends away to St. Moritz on a whim, and making generous donations in Lena's name. To the world, she was the perfect billionaire's wife, poised, elegant, and deeply adored. But behind closed doors, cracks in the fairy tale began to show. Matteo had a subtle but undeniable need for control, from the friends she kept to the causes she supported. When she had dreamed of starting her own charity foundation, he had dismissed the idea with a fleeting smile, telling her to focus on enjoying life instead. He showered her with lavish gifts, but each came with an unspoken expectation: loyalty, obedience, silence. Then, the pregnancy changed everything. At first, Matteo seemed overjoyed. He flooded their penthouse with designer baby clothes, excitedly discussing plans to create the most luxurious nursery in their Milan estate. But as the weeks passed, Lena found herself alone more often than not. Business trips to Dubai, urgent meetings in New York, excuses piled up as his presence faded. Late-night phone calls ended abruptly whenever she entered the room. She had convinced herself that it was simply the strain of a high-profile marriage. That was, until today. Now, as she stood frozen in the clinic, watching her husband embrace another woman, reality crashed down like a tidal wave. Betrayal, heartbreak, and fury tangled inside her, but one thing was clear: Lena Moretti was no fool, and she would not face this battle alone. Lena tried to ignore the nagging sense of unease that had begun creeping into her marriage. She had once believed Matteo's absences were simply part of his demanding career. a necessity that came with being the head of DeLuca Enterprises. Yet, as the weeks passed, his excuses felt more like rehearsed lines than genuine reasons. Business trips to Shanghai, late-night negotiations with venture capitalists in Dubai, meetings that stretched long into the night, phone calls that went eerily silent whenever she entered the room. The distance between them was no longer just emotional. It felt like a vast ocean widening with every passing day. Still, Lena refused to let doubt consume her. She reminded herself that a high-society marriage was bound to face its challenges. That was the price of wealth, of power, of a life built under the scrutiny of the elite. She had chosen this life, and she wouldn't let paranoia destroy it. Besides, she had the unwavering support of her 3 older brothers, men who had spent their lives protecting her. Alessandro, the eldest, was a venture capitalist whose sharp business instincts had earned him a place on the covers of Forbes. Always composed, always strategic, Alessandro operated like a grandmaster on a chessboard, thinking 10 moves ahead. Dante, the middle brother, was a high-ranking official in the Italian judiciary system. With his sharp intellect and ability to manipulate legal outcomes, Dante was the kind of man people feared crossing. One word from him could make or break careers. Luca, the youngest, ran an international security firm. Built like a soldier, he had the presence of a man who had seen and survived far too much. His loyalty to Lena was absolute, his protectiveness unmatched. Growing up, her brothers had pushed her to excel, but had never let the world break her. When she had announced her engagement to Matteo, they had masked their skepticism behind polite smiles, but she had felt their silent disapproval. Wealth was a seductive trap, and they knew it better than anyone. Still, Lena had been in love. Matteo was charming, intelligent, and ambitious. He had promised her the world, and she had believed him. Her brothers had demanded a prenuptial agreement to protect her. Matteo had resisted, claiming it was an insult to their love. "If you trust me, why do we need one?" he had asked, his voice laced with disappointment. "I just want to marry the man I love," Lena had pleaded, unwilling to let legalities cast a shadow over their happiness. Eventually, they had compromised on a scaled-down agreement, but Alessandro and Dante had never been satisfied. Even after the wedding, they had kept a careful eye on Matteo, waiting for the cracks to show. Lena had no idea how soon that moment would come, or how devastating it would be. Though her brothers' lives often took them to different parts of the world, they were never too far from Lena. No matter where they were, Milan, Geneva, or New York, she never had to ask for help. It was unspoken. If she needed them, they would be there. As her pregnancy progressed, she cherished the phone calls with each brother. Alessandro bombarded her with financial advice, insisting she set up trust funds for the baby. Dante, ever the legal mind, subtly reminded her about parental rights, hinting he could step in if Matteo ever tried to manipulate the situation. Luca, her most protective brother, casually mentioned that if she ever felt unsafe, he had security personnel ready to intervene. Their words reassured her. No matter how complicated things became with Matteo, she had her brothers standing firmly behind her. But as the day of her 20-week ultrasound approached, her focus was on something else. The tiny life growing inside her. She had no idea that this appointment would bring her face to face with a betrayal so cruel that it would threaten everything she had built. That morning, sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the private obstetrics clinic in the heart of Milan. It was an exclusive facility reserved for the elite. Matteo had promised to meet her there. No more missed appointments, no more excuses. She arrived early, greeted by the familiar smiles of the front desk staff. They knew the DeLuca name well, treating her with the quiet deference reserved for society's most powerful women. Dr. Giulia Romano, a renowned OBGYN with a VIP clientele, was eager to perform Lena's ultrasound. Settling into the plush waiting area, Lena tried to ignore the hushed whispers of other patients who recognized her but were too polite to stare. Minutes passed, then more. Matteo still hadn't arrived. Lena checked her phone. No missed calls, no messages. A flicker of irritation sparked in her chest. Taking a slow breath, she rose to approach the receptionist. Then she saw him. Through the glass doors just beyond the clinic's entrance, Matteo stood in the hallway, not alone. A stunning woman was by his side, petite, with cascading raven hair and a dress that clung to her every curve. She laughed, tilting her face toward him, and he responded by placing his hand on her waist, his touch unmistakably intimate. Lena's stomach twisted. Everything inside her screamed to look away, to pretend she hadn't seen what was unfolding before her eyes. But she couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Her rich husband, the man she'd given everything to, was here, wrapped in another woman's arms. Her vision blurred, the world narrowing down to this single, devastating moment. Matteo didn't even notice her. He was too engrossed in his conversation, his grip on the woman's waist tightening as they whispered in hushed tones. Lena barely registered the receptionist calling her name. The air felt too thick, her body too unsteady. Betrayal and heartbreak slammed into her all at once. She had come here to see the child they had created together, but instead, she had discovered the man she loved, betraying her in the most humiliating way possible. And just like that, the world she had built began to crack. Lena's breath caught in her throat. Through the glass doors, Matteo stood, his body angled intimately toward the woman beside him. She was stunning, long raven hair cascading over bare shoulders, a dress hugging every delicate curve. But it wasn't just her presence that sent a dagger through Lena's chest. It was the way Matteo touched her. His hand rested lightly on her waist, fingers grazing the fabric of her dress in a gesture far too familiar. The woman laughed, tilting her face up at him, and Matteo responded by wrapping his arms around her in a slow, deliberate embrace. Lena's vision blurred. The world seemed to move in slow motion, sounds muffled, as if she were suddenly trapped underwater. A receptionist called her name, concern evident in her voice, but Lena couldn't react. This was the man who was supposed to be inside the clinic, sitting beside her, waiting to see their child for the first time. Instead, he was here, flirting openly with another woman, as if his pregnant wife didn't exist. Panic and betrayal surged within her, an unbearable mix of nausea and heartbreak. She considered stepping forward, confronting them, demanding answers, but her body betrayed her. A wave of dizziness washed over her, forcing her to grip the edge of the counter. A nurse rushed over. "Signora Moretti, are you all right?" Matteo didn't see her. He and the woman slipped into the elevator, their bodies still entwined. The steel doors slid shut, severing the last thread of doubt she had been holding on to. Then, as if fate wanted to hammer in the final nail, Matteo's phone rang. Lena's heart pounded. His phone was in her purse. He had misplaced it the night before and hadn't even noticed. She looked down at the screen. Naomi Cheng. Her stomach twisted violently. The name confirmed what she already knew. This wasn't just an innocent business meeting. Matteo was having an affair. Somehow, she forced herself to step back inside the clinic. She wouldn't break down in front of strangers. Not here. Not now. "I need a moment," she whispered to the receptionist, one hand protectively cradling her stomach. She turned just as Dr. Romano's office door opened. Inside the dimly lit exam room, Lena settled onto the cushioned table, forcing herself to breathe. Her fingers trembled slightly, and she clenched them into fists. Dr. Romano, a woman with warm brown eyes, studied her carefully. "Lena, you look pale. Are you feeling all right?" Tears threatened to spill, but Lena blinked them back. "I'm fine," she rasped, though her voice betrayed her. Dr. Romano didn't press further. Instead, she dimmed the lights and turned on the ultrasound machine. Lena's heart pounded louder with every passing second. There had been a time when this moment would have been one of pure joy, seeing her baby's tiny hands, hearing the strong, steady heartbeat. She had imagined Matteo sitting beside her, squeezing her hand, sharing this milestone as they prepared for their new life together. But now, that joy was tarnished. All she could see was the image of her rich, powerful husband embracing another woman just outside these walls. Anger simmered beneath the heartbreak, a slow burn fueled by the sheer injustice of how deeply she had been deceived. She was no longer just a betrayed wife. She was a woman who had just witnessed the truth with her own eyes, and that truth would change everything. The gel felt warm against Lena's skin as Dr. Romano carefully guided the ultrasound wand over her stomach. A flicker of motion appeared on the screen. Then clearer, a small figure took shape. Delicate bones, tiny hands, a rhythmic heartbeat pulsing steadily. Lena's breath hitched, tears welled in her eyes, not just from sorrow but from sheer awe. Everything she had endured today, The shock, the betrayal, the heartbreak momentarily faded as she gazed at the undeniable proof of life growing inside her. Dr. Romano offered a soft smile. "Everything looks perfect," she said, pointing to the screen. "Your baby is developing right on schedule." A wave of relief washed over Lena. "Would you like to know the gender?" She hesitated. She and Matteo had once planned an elaborate gender reveal party, envisioning laughter, champagne, and friends gathered in their grand villa. Now, the thought of that celebration felt meaningless. Still, curiosity stirred within her, and for the first time today, she allowed herself to focus on something other than her husband's betrayal. "Yes," she whispered, clearing her throat. "Please tell me." Dr. Romano studied the monitor for a moment before turning to her with a gentle grin. "Congratulations, Lena. It's a girl." A fresh wave of emotion crashed over her. She had dreamed of having a daughter, imagining tea parties, bedtime stories, tiny fingers curling around hers. For a fleeting moment, the pain of betrayal faded into the background, replaced by the profound joy of impending motherhood. Lena traced the outline of her daughter on the screen, a silent promise forming in her heart. "I will protect you. I will love you. I will never let anyone hurt you." No matter what happened between her and Matteo, this child would never feel unloved. Dr. Romano printed out the ultrasound images, handing them to Lena with a knowing look. Clutching the photos tightly, she tried to smile in gratitude, but her mind was already spinning. Matteo's betrayal was no longer a suspicion, it was a fact. The moment she left this clinic, she would have to face it. Lena knew one thing for certain: she would not do it alone. Steeling herself, she strode out of the clinic, ignoring the curious glances from staff and patients alike. The moment her heels touched the pavement, she pulled out her phone. She dialed Alessandro, her eldest brother. The phone rang twice before his deep, authoritative voice answered. "Lena, is everything all right?" The tears she had fought so hard to contain threatened to spill over. She swallowed hard, her grip tightening on the ultrasound pictures. "I need you," she whispered. And Alessandro, without hesitation, responded, "I'm on my way." "Can we all meet?" Something happened," Lena managed, her voice trembling. "It's urgent." Alessandro didn't hesitate. "Of course. I'll call Dante and Luca. We'll be there within the hour." An hour later, Lena found herself inside a private lounge on the top floor of Moretti Tower, one of Alessandro's many properties in Milan. The space exuded quiet luxury, marble floors, leather furniture, and floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing the glittering skyline. By the time she arrived, her brothers were already there, having dropped everything to be with her. Dante stood near the bar, still in his tailored navy suit, his expression unreadable, but eyes sharp with concern. Luca leaned against the window, arms crossed, his casual attire, dark jeans and a black polo, doing nothing to soften the air of quiet menace around him. Alessandro, always the composed one, gestured for Lena to sit. "Tell us." She met their eyes, her hands trembling in her lap. She had held herself together at the clinic. But now, surrounded by the only people she fully trusted, the walls crumbled. "I think Matteo is cheating," she blurted, her voice cracking. A suffocating silence settled in the room. Lena swallowed hard. "I was at my ultrasound, waiting for him. He never showed up. When I went to check my phone, I saw him, outside the clinic." Her breath hitched. "With another woman." Dante clenched his jaw. Luca's expression darkened, his hands curling into fists at his sides. "Who is she?" "I don't know." The words barely escaped her lips. But it was obvious. He had his arms around her. She broke off, shaking her head. "It wasn't just business." Alessandro exhaled sharply, pinching the bridge of his nose. "We suspected trouble, Lena. We just didn't want to come to you without proof." Her heart pounded. "Well, now I have the proof. I saw it with my own eyes." She let out a shuddering breath. "And the worst part? I'm having a girl." For the first time since she walked in, her composure cracked completely. Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I thought he wanted this baby. I thought—" Her voice wavered. "Clearly he doesn't care about our family at all." Luca's fury ignited like wildfire. "Cheating on you while you're pregnant? That bastard is asking for war." Dante, always the logical one, straightened, his mind already calculating. "We need to handle this carefully. Matteo isn't just anyone. He's a wealthy businessman with power and influence. If we don't move strategically, this could turn into a high-profile scandal, and you and the baby could be caught in the fallout." Alessandro nodded in agreement. He placed a firm, reassuring hand on Lena's shoulder. "We'll figure this out." His voice was steady, but his expression was lethal. Matteo De Luca had made a fatal mistake. He had betrayed Lena, and he would not get away with it. For the first time since that devastating moment at the clinic, Lena felt something other than heartbreak. She felt rage, and with her brothers by her side, she was ready to fight back. The next morning, Lena retreated to her childhood home in Florence, a beautiful yet modest villa nestled in the Tuscan countryside. It was the one place that still felt untouched by the chaos of her life, a refuge where her powerful family had built its foundation. Meanwhile, her brothers wasted no time. Alessandro, always methodical, used his vast corporate network to discreetly investigate Matteo's financial activities. If he was reckless enough to cheat, there was a strong possibility his finances would reveal something just as damning. Dante, with his connections in the legal world, began quietly pulling records, searching for any vulnerabilities in Matteo's empire. If there was a financial scandal buried beneath the surface, he would find it. Luca, however, took a more direct approach. He enlisted a trusted contact, a former military intelligence officer, to tail Matteo, tracking his every move. "You deserve the truth," he told Lena, his voice firm. Lena wanted to object. She hated the idea of being the kind of woman who had her husband followed. But she couldn't ignore the gnawing suspicion in her gut. Matteo wasn't just unfaithful. He was hiding something bigger. Back in her childhood bedroom, she tried to distract herself. She folded the delicate baby clothes she had purchased, imagining the day her daughter would wear them. But the image of Matteo, his hands on another woman, his easy smile reserved for someone else, haunted her. She thought about their lavish wedding at a villa overlooking Lake Como, the honeymoon in Santorini, the whispered promises of forever. Had it all been a lie? That afternoon, her phone rang. "We found something," Alessandro said, his normally controlled voice tinged with urgency. Lena gripped the phone tighter. "Tell me." "Matteo has been funneling money into a shell company, Santorini Holdings. The address is fake. The transactions are substantial and happen monthly." Her heart pounded. Could it be one of De Luca Enterprises' projects? "I doubt it. The pattern is too personal. One transfer was marked as discretionary services, a common term for hush money or under-the-table deals." A chill ran through her. "So he's either paying someone off," she murmured, "or funding something he doesn't want me or anyone else to know about." "Exactly," Alessandro confirmed. "Dante thinks it'd be blackmail, or worse, an account he's using to support a mistress." Lena pressed a hand to her stomach. The betrayal ran deeper than she had imagined. By evening, her phone buzzed again. This time, it was Luca. "Matteo went to the Aman Milano hotel," he reported. He wasn't alone. Lena's throat tightened. Who was with him? "Naomi Cheng, the woman from the clinic." Luca's next words made her blood run cold. "They stayed in a suite for over 2 hours. Matteo left alone, looking agitated. We got photos." Lena closed her eyes, her pulse hammering. So it was real. Matteo had a mistress, and he was paying large sums to keep it hidden. Lena's stomach twisted as the truth became undeniable. He must have thought she would stay home, oblivious, continuing her role as the perfect wife in their luxury penthouse. He was wrong. She was no longer the naive woman who had once believed in his promises. Now, she had 3 powerful allies uncovering every secret he tried to bury. That evening, she returned to their home, stepping into the grand marble foyer. The air was still, unnervingly quiet. The soft lighting, the fresh orchids, the distant hum of the city, it was all the same, yet nothing felt familiar anymore. Matteo sat in the living room, his laptop open in front of him. When he looked up and saw her, surprise flickered across his face. "Lena," he said, rising from his seat. "You're home." She placed her purse down, crossing her arms. "I never left, Matteo, but you clearly have." His brows furrowed. "What is that supposed to mean?" Lena's heart pounded, but her voice was steady. She reached into her bag, pulling out the manila folder Luca had given her. She tossed it onto the coffee table, the contents spilling out. Photos of Matteo entering the Aman Milano hotel, his arm around Naomi Cheng, the 2 of them slipping into a private suite. "Explain these," she demanded, her voice shaking with anger and hurt. For a fleeting second, panic flashed in Matteo's eyes, but he masked it quickly, flipping through the images with feigned indignation. You had me followed? His voice was sharp. This is unbelievable. Lena let out a humorless laugh. I saw you with her at the clinic, Matteo. You didn't even bother to show up for my ultrasound. Instead, you were in a hallway with her, holding her like she was your wife. He ran a hand over the back of his neck. Naomi is just a business acquaintance. We're working on a philanthropic initiative together. Lena clenched her fists. Does this look like business to you? She pointed to the most damning image. His fingers intertwined with Naomi's as they stood outside the elevator. Matteo exhaled sharply. Lena, this is ridiculous. You're invading my privacy. Privacy? She repeated, her voice rising. You expect privacy while you sneak around with another woman? While you funnel money into a fake company, Santorini Holdings? Are you funding some secret real estate scheme? The color drained from his face. That reaction told her everything. Matteo De Luca had more than just an affair to hide. A flicker of shock crossed Matteo's face, confirming what Lena already knew. Her discovery was bigger than he had expected. Listen, this is complicated, he finally stammered. Lena wrapped a protective hand over her growing belly, her heart pounding. Is this how you treat your pregnant wife? She demanded. Sneaking around with another woman? Hiding money in shell companies? I loved you, Matteo. Do you even understand what this is doing to me? What it could do to our child? He hesitated. Lena, it's not what you think. Naomi approached me with a business opportunity, and yes, it got personal. But you have to understand, I've been under a lot of pressure. Lena let out a bitter laugh. Pressure? Her voice sharpened. You think you're under pressure? Try carrying a child while your wealthy cheater of a husband indulges in an affair behind your back. Matteo inhaled sharply, his jaw tightening, but he said nothing. The silence stretched between them, a chasm deeper than Lena ever imagined. She didn't wait for more excuses. She turned on her heel and walked out, leaving Matteo standing in their living room, surrounded by the damning photographs. Her decision was made. If he wouldn't come clean, she would move forward without him. That night, she retreated to Alessandro's penthouse in Milan, a sophisticated space with floor-to-ceiling windows and sleek, minimalist decor. Seated at a long marble dining table, she faced her 3 brothers, who had convened for this emergency meeting at her request. She couldn't bear another night in the penthouse. Not after that confrontation. Alessandro poured her a glass of water, his expression calm but filled with concern. We can't let him manipulate you, he said quietly. Matteo will twist the narrative, pretend this is just a misunderstanding, but we have enough evidence to know better. Dante, ever the legal expert, leaned forward. Unfortunately, adultery alone isn't always enough for a clean break, especially in an elite divorce. But the money trail? That could change everything. If Matteo has been funneling assets without your knowledge, it's a serious breach of trust. Luca's eyes darkened. And trust me, we'll find out exactly where his money has been going. Lena exhaled, exhaustion and anger pressing down on her. She took a sip of water, her hands trembling slightly. I don't know if I'm ready for a divorce yet, she admitted. I just want him to stop lying. But it's like he's in too deep. Dante's gaze softened. It's your decision, Lena. Whatever you choose, we're here for you. For the first time since the nightmare began, she truly believed it. Luca stood with his arms crossed, his expression unreadable. We can't ignore the possibility that Naomi Cheng is more than just an affair, he said. She's known for making dangerous business deals. My contact found traces of her forging alliances with foreign investors, some of them linked to financial fraud. Matteo might not just be unfaithful, he could be in serious trouble. Lena's stomach tightened. If Matteo was tangled in illegal activities, the consequences wouldn't just fall on him. Their family name, their financial security, even their child's future was at risk. What do we do? She asked, scanning the faces of her brothers. Alessandro took a slow breath. Step 1. Dante will investigate Naomi's background using his legal connections. If she's already on law enforcement's radar, we need to know. Step 2. Alessandro continued. I'll have a forensic accountant track the money trail. If Matteo is transferring funds to this shell company, we'll find out where it's going and who's benefiting. Step 3, Luca added. I'll keep watching Matteo, but I won't escalate unless necessary. Lena nodded, a sense of relief washing over her. For the first time since discovering Matteo's betrayal, she felt like she had a plan, a way to reclaim control. Her daughter's future was what mattered most. If that meant leaving behind the De Luca name, then so be it. But she refused to walk into this blindly. Dante placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Lena, you're stronger than you think. No matter how powerful Matteo is, no matter how manipulative Naomi might be, they underestimated what it means to hurt a Moretti. Lena's eyes burned with a mix of gratitude and determination. There was no turning back now. 2 days later, Matteo showed up unannounced at Alessandro's penthouse. Luca was the first to react, immediately stepping between him and the door. His stance was rigid, protective. "She might not want to see you," he growled. Matteo raised his hands. "Luca, I'm not here to start a fight. I just want to talk to my wife." From down the hall, Lena emerged. Her arms were folded protectively over her growing belly, but her gaze was unreadable. A storm of emotions churned inside her. Rage, betrayal, and a flicker of something else. Hope. "Let him in," she said, her voice calm despite the thunder in her chest. Matteo stepped inside, taking in the sleek, modern furnishings of the penthouse. Everything about Alessandro's space exuded quiet power, just like the man himself. Lena stood firm, waiting for him to speak. This was his chance to tell the truth, and she would know if he lied. Matteo's gaze landed on Lena, his expression faltering as he took in the exhaustion etched on her face. The woman he once adored now looked at him like a stranger. "Lena," he exhaled, raking a hand through his hair. "I know I messed up." His voice was low, almost pleading. "I've been under immense pressure. Naomi was a distraction, but it's over now. I swear." Lena's lips pressed into a thin line. "Distraction. You said it was just business," she shot back. "Now she was a distraction? Which is it, Matteo? Because the difference means everything." His chest rose and fell in a heavy sigh, his desperation barely concealed. "I wasn't honest before. Our relationship got physical, but it's finished. I promise you I won't see her again." Her heart pounded painfully in her chest. "And the money?" she asked, her voice measured. "The shell company? The secret transactions?" Matteo's shoulders slumped. "It was an investment I made, a reckless attempt to expand De Luca Enterprises into Asia. Naomi manipulated me, convinced me it would be lucrative." Lena studied his face, searching for the truth. Behind her, Luca remained still, arms crossed, his silent presence a warning. "That's not all, is it?" she pressed. Matteo swallowed hard. His jaw tensed before he finally admitted. "Naomi threatened to expose the affair unless I continued funding her venture. She wanted me to secure high-level investors." He hesitated. "I was afraid of losing you, Lena, so I paid her." Lena's hands clenched into fists at her sides. "You were afraid of losing me," she repeated, her voice shaking with restrained fury. "So you cheated on me and paid hush money?" She could barely recognize the man standing before her. "I know how it sounds," Matteo's voice cracked. "I was selfish, but I'm here now, begging for your forgiveness. We're about to have a daughter. I want to be in her life, in your life." Lena looked down, her emotions a tangled storm. Could she ever trust him again? Matteo took a hesitant step forward. Luca immediately straightened, his voice razor-sharp. "That's enough." Matteo stilled. "She'll decide when or if she wants you in her life," Luca said coldly. "For now, I suggest you leave." Regret darkened Matteo's face, but he nodded, casting one last pleading glance at Lena before stepping out. Luca shut the door firmly behind him. Silence settled over the room. Lena exhaled, the weight of Matteo's wealthy betrayal pressing down on her. Love alone wasn't enough to repair what he had broken. Luca turned to her, his expression softer now. "You okay?" he asked, his voice gentler than before. For the first time, Lena wasn't sure how to answer. Lena sank onto the plush leather sofa, her head falling into her hands. "I don't know what to do." Her voice came out muffled, thick with exhaustion. "He says it's over, but how can I believe him?" Luca crouched beside her, his hand resting on her knee. "I know it's not easy to make a decision right now. You need time. But Lena, Matteo shattered your trust in the most personal way." She nodded, silent tears slipping through her fingers. "I keep thinking about our daughter. What if she grows up without a father? And if I take him back, what if he hurts me again?" A hesitant knock on the doorframe made her look up. Alessandro entered, a folder in hand. Behind him, Dante followed, his expression sharp, carrying the weight of years of legal expertise. "We heard Matteo was here." Alessandro said, glancing at Luca. What happened? Lena relayed the conversation. The blackmail, the claims that he ended the affair, his insistence that Naomi had manipulated him. When she finished, Alessandro flipped open the folder in his hands. Well, I have something that might help you decide. He placed a stack of financial records on the table. Our forensic accountant traced the shell company's transactions. Matteo has been transferring funds directly to Naomi's personal accounts, monthly, in large amounts. Lena's pulse quickened. So it's true, he's been paying her. Alessandro's jaw tightened. That's not even the worst part. He pointed to a set of highlighted numbers. Some of the money didn't stay in her accounts. It was funneled into a suspicious real estate project in Hong Kong, a project rumored to be a front for financial corruption and money laundering. Lena's breath hitched. Dante folded his arms. That's the speculation, at least. But here's the real issue. If Matteo keeps transferring money and this blows up, you could be implicated too. If Interpol or financial regulators investigate, your finances could be scrutinized as well. A chill ran down Lena's spine. So if I stay with him, I risk getting dragged into a marriage scandal that could turn criminal. But if I leave him, I break up my family. Silence settled over the room. Alessandro and Dante exchanged a look. We're here to guide you, Alessandro said gently, but the choice is yours. One path might lead to a legal battle, Dante added. The other, personal heartbreak. Lena swallowed hard, pressing a protective hand to her belly. Both choices felt impossible. She wanted to scream at the unfairness of it all. Instead, all she could do was whisper, "What do I do now?" I need time. I need space to think. Lena's voice was quiet but firm. Her brothers didn't push. Instead, Alessandro, Dante, and Luca each placed a hand on her shoulders, a silent show of solidarity. Even in her turmoil, she knew one thing. No matter what happened, the Moretti brothers stood as an unbreakable wall behind her. Early the next morning, an unexpected visitor arrived at Alessandro's penthouse, Naomi Cheng. The doorman, visibly perplexed by her presence, alerted security, who immediately called Alessandro. Within minutes, Lena and her brothers stood in the lobby, watching as Naomi sat, poised and elegant, on a velvet bench. Dressed in a designer suit, she rose smoothly to her feet, flashing a polished smile. "I'm not here to cause trouble," she said, her voice silk smooth yet sharp as a blade. "But I believe we need to talk. Woman to woman." Her gaze landed directly on Lena. Luca stiffened beside her, but Lena lifted her chin, refusing to be intimidated. "What do you want?" Naomi's red-painted lips curled slightly. She gestured toward the luxurious lobby. "Somewhere more private might be best. Unless, of course, you'd like the entire building to overhear." Reluctantly, Lena nodded to her brothers, signaling them to hold back. She led Naomi into a discreet lounge, settling into a sleek leather chair across from her rival. Alessandro, Dante, and Luca remained near the door, arms crossed, watchful. Naomi crossed her legs, leaning forward. "Let's be frank. Matteo and I were involved. Yes, he paid me, but I provided him with valuable business connections in Asia." She paused, her dark eyes flicking to Lena's growing belly. "I just didn't anticipate you discovering our arrangement so soon." Lena's jaw clenched. "You mean your blackmail arrangement?" Naomi shrugged, as if discussing a minor business deal. "He had more to lose than I did. I saw an opportunity, and I took it. If he wants to keep me quiet, it'll cost him. And that includes you, dear Lena." Her voice was deceptively sweet, but her words were pure poison. "If you or your brothers interfere, the incriminating evidence I hold on Matteo's dealings in Hong Kong might just find its way to the authorities." Lena's pulse quickened, but she kept her expression neutral. "So let me get this straight. You're threatening to ruin him, and by extension, me." Naomi's smile never wavered. "Call it what you will. I'm a businesswoman. If you want me out of your life, pay up. Or better yet, let Matteo finish what he started. Once I get my returns, I'll disappear." From the corner of the room, Luca's voice cut through the tension, low and lethal. "You'd better watch your step, Miss Cheng." His tone was pure warning. "We're not the kind of family you want to cross." Naomi's sharp gaze flicked toward Luca, a knowing smirk playing on her lips. "Oh, I've done my homework on the Morettis. Impressive resumes, all of you." She smoothed a stray hair from her face, her confidence unwavering. "But let's see if all that power can stop a corporate scandal from toppling DeLuca Enterprises." The room grew colder. I suggest you think carefully before waging a war you can't win." Her words lingered in the air like a storm cloud, thick with warning. She turned to Lena, her expression almost pitying, then strolled out of the lounge with the grace of a woman who believed she had already won. For a moment, no one spoke. Lena sat in stunned silence, barely aware of her brothers exchanging heated whispers. Naomi's ultimatum was clear: walk away quietly, or risk Mateo's downfall, and possibly her own. The weight of the decision pressed down on her like an iron chain. Tension crackled through the room as the brothers reconvened. Dante paced near the window, his sharp mind already running through possible legal strategies. Alessandro stood stiffly, staring at the door Naomi had just walked through, replaying every word she had said. Luca's hands were clenched into fists. His protective instincts demanded a more direct solution. "We're not giving her a dime," Luca finally said, his voice like steel. "Extortion is a crime. We can't let her think she can bully us." Dante nodded in agreement. "But if she follows through on her threat, Mateo will be the one facing legal consequences, and that could affect Lena." "We need a plan," Alessandro said, his tone measured. "One that neutralizes her threat before she acts. One that keeps Lena safe." His gaze shifted to his sister. "But first, we need to know where you stand. Do you want to salvage this marriage?" Lena's breath trembled as she placed a protective hand over her belly. "I don't know if Mateo and I can rebuild anything after this," she admitted. "But I don't want him to go to prison. My daughter deserves a father, no matter how flawed." Dante stopped pacing. "I have a contact in the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit, Greg Thompson. We worked together on a major fraud case years ago. If Naomi's involved in money laundering or extortion, we could tip him off, quietly." Alessandro's eyes sharpened. "And if we compile proof of her extortion attempts, we can turn the tables before she leaks anything." For the first time since this nightmare began, Lena felt a sliver of control returning. Her brothers weren't just protecting her. They were about to eliminate the threat altogether. If the authorities see that Naomi is blackmailing Mateo, they might offer him legal immunity in exchange for testifying against her. Dante's voice was firm, but Luca remained unconvinced. He shook his head slowly. "That's risky. If Mateo is too deeply involved, this financial scandal could still drag Lena down with him." "I'll talk to him," Lena interjected. The room fell silent. She swallowed hard, then continued. "He needs to understand that cooperating might be his only way out. If he's honest, they could reduce or even drop the charges against him. But if he tries to handle this alone, Naomi will tear him apart." She paused, steeling herself. "For the sake of my baby, I need to see this through." Alessandro placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Then it's settled. We'll gather everything: financial records, communications, proof of blackmail. Dante, you contact your FBI friend. Luca, keep an eye on Naomi's movements." He met her gaze with a small but determined smile. "And you, Lena, focus on your health. Prepare yourself for this confrontation. This time, we set the terms." Lena nodded, her resolve hardening. The Moretti plan was in motion. Whatever storm Naomi Cheng thought she could unleash, she had yet to realize that Lena wasn't standing alone. She had 3 fiercely loyal brothers, ready to fight for her. Later that evening, Lena gathered her courage and returned to the penthouse. She found Mateo by the floor-to-ceiling windows, a glass of scotch in hand, the city lights glittering behind him, a cruel imitation of his once glamorous life. His shoulders sagged as though carrying the crushing weight of his mistakes. At the sound of her footsteps, he turned. "Lena." His voice was hoarse. "She came to see you, didn't she?" Lena walked further into the room, her steps measured. "She did. And she threatened you. Again. She wants more money, or she'll release evidence of your involvement in questionable financial dealings." Mateo's face twisted with regret. "I was a fool," he murmured, staring at his drink. "She played me, used my money, my weakness, and now she has me trapped." His grip tightened around the glass. "I'd do anything to protect you and our daughter, but I don't see a way out." Lena's heart pounded, but her voice remained steady. "There is a way out," she said, "but it involves telling the truth." Mateo looked up sharply. "My brother Dante has an FBI contact who specializes in financial crimes," Lena continued. "If you cooperate, if you testify against Naomi, they might shield you from the worst consequences." Mateo exhaled, his gaze dark with realization. For the first time he understood. This was his last chance to make things right. Mateo's eyes darkened with fear. Testify? His voice was barely a whisper. That means going on record, exposing the affair, the hidden accounts. The board of DeLuca Enterprises would remove me, my father's entire legacy, everything I've built, gone. Lena's gaze didn't waver. She placed a hand on her belly. Is that worth more than your family? Her voice was quiet but firm. More than our daughter? He flinched as if struck. No, of course not. She stepped closer, searching his face. If you want to fix this, you have to come clean. My brothers are gathering evidence that proves Naomi manipulated and blackmailed you, but you must be honest about every detail. No more lies, no more secrets. Mateo ran a hand over his face, then sank into a chair. Several tense seconds passed before he finally lifted his head, his expression raw with desperation. All right, he murmured. I'll do it. I'll give Dante and the FBI whatever they need, if it means you'll give me a chance to be a real husband and father. Lena's chest tightened, torn between pity and lingering anger. I'm not promising things will ever go back to the way they were, she said quietly. You broke my trust, Mateo. But if you truly want to keep us safe, help us stop Naomi. He set his glass aside and stood, hesitating before reaching for her shoulders. She didn't move. Then, after a moment's pause, she let him rest his hands lightly on her. Lena, he whispered, voice thick with regret. I'm sorry. For everything. I'll do whatever it takes to protect you and our child. Her jaw tightened. Then let's start with the truth. By midday, the Moretti brothers, Lena and Mateo, gathered in a high-security conference room at Alessandro's private office. The sleek, glass-paneled space offered a panoramic view of Milan, but no one admired it. All attention was focused on the matter at hand. Dante's contact, FBI agent Greg Thompson, joined via secure video call. His professional demeanor was unshaken, though a flicker of empathy crossed his face when he noticed Lena's rounded belly. After brief introductions, Mateo cleared his throat, his voice trembling. He recounted how he had met Naomi Cheng at a charity gala in Hong Kong. At first, it had been harmless, a flirtation fueled by her exotic charm and her promises to expand DeLuca Enterprises into Asia. Then over time, it became more. An affair, a mistake, a trap. And soon, Mateo realized Naomi wasn't just a mistress. She was a player in a high-profile scandal, deeply tied to international white-collar crime. Naomi kept demanding more money, threatening to expose the affair, and worse, implicate me in fraudulent investments overseas, Mateo admitted, his voice heavy with exhaustion. Lena's stomach churned. Mateo continued, his eyes flicking between Greg Thompson, the FBI agent on the video call, and Lena. As soon as I realized Naomi was funneling these funds into shady partnerships in Hong Kong, I tried to pull out. But she had a paper trail. Documents with my signature. Some real, some forged. His jaw tightened. She was framing me as the mastermind. Greg listened intently, occasionally typing notes into his system. Mr. DeLuca, the FBI has been tracking Miss Cheng for some time. She's linked to multiple cases of financial crimes and corporate fraud. His gaze sharpened. If you're willing to testify and provide all documentation, we can consider you a cooperating witness. That would significantly reduce your legal liability. Lena exhaled softly. The man she had once idolized stood on the brink of personal and professional ruin. Yet, ironically, his willingness to cooperate might be the only thing that could keep them all safe. Dante leaned forward. We'll provide everything we've gathered, the shell company transactions, Naomi's threats, and Mateo's testimony. It should be enough to build a solid case against her. Greg nodded. Be advised, Miss Cheng won't go down quietly. She'll likely retaliate through the media or by attempting to leave the country. We'll need to move quickly. Lena swallowed against the knot in her throat. I'm not worried about myself, she said. I'm worried about my child. I don't want any of this surrounding her once she's born. Greg's expression softened. We'll do our best to contain the fallout. But if Naomi cuts a deal, she might try to drag you into the press. We'll keep your name as private as possible. A muscle in Mateo's jaw twitched. Then, as if resigning himself to his fate, he exhaled. I'll do it, he murmured. I'll sign the statement, hand over everything. Silence hung thick in the room. Lena's gaze met Mateo's, her heart warring between empathy and lingering betrayal. Was this his path to redemption, or just the final step before their marriage crumbled for good? Guilt flickered across Matteo's face, but he didn't beg. He knew words wouldn't fix what he had broken. Finally, Alessandro stepped forward, placing a reassuring hand on Lena's shoulder. "We'll face whatever comes next, together," he murmured, looking toward Dante and Luca. They nodded in unison. Matteo watched them, fully aware that any mercy he received wouldn't come from them, but from Lena herself. And she wasn't sure if she had any left to give. Any hope Matteo had for redemption depended solely on Lena's willingness to trust him one last time, and the relentless power of the Moretti brothers at her back. In the tumultuous weeks that followed, the FBI worked swiftly to build its case against Naomi Cheng. Guided by Dante's legal expertise, Matteo turned over every piece of evidence he had: emails, wire transfers, recorded phone conversations. Lena watched from the sidelines, torn between concern for the father of her child and a resentment that refused to fade. Meanwhile, Alessandro's team of financial analysts combed through DeLuca Enterprises' records, ensuring that every trace of Naomi's fraudulent activities was uncovered. Sensing the walls closing in, Naomi made one last desperate move. She leaked a scandalous story to the tabloids, painting Matteo as a ruthless mogul who had used her to launder money through fraudulent investments overseas. She even implied that Lena had known about the affair all along and condoned it. For a brief moment, the media exploded with speculation. The headlines were ruthless, twisting reality into salacious gossip. But Dante moved quickly, using his media connections to shift the narrative. Respected journalists exposed Naomi's criminal history, reframing her as a master manipulator rather than a victim. Then came the final blow. Greg Thompson's FBI team arrested Naomi at the airport, a one-way ticket to Macau clutched in her manicured hand. The charges were severe: conspiracy to commit wire fraud, money laundering, and attempted extortion. The tabloids had a field day, splashing her glamorous mugshot across their front pages, a stark contrast to her carefully curated socialite persona. Meanwhile, DeLuca Enterprises reeled from the fallout. The board, desperate to distance the company from the federal investigation, suspended Matteo pending further review. Ironically, his cooperation with authorities might be the only thing that saved the company from heavier financial penalties. Through it all, Lena found solace in the unwavering strength of her brothers. Alessandro handled the corporate damage control, quietly securing her stake in any marital assets. Luca reinforced security around her, ensuring no paparazzi or dangerous associates could threaten her peace. Dante navigated the legal minefield, reassuring Lena that she was not liable for Matteo's mistakes. Together, they formed a protective barrier around her, ensuring that stress and chaos stayed far from her door. Then came the night everything changed. A month after Naomi's arrest, Lena went into labor. It was unexpected. The pain struck suddenly as she sat in the penthouse lounge, exhausted by the weight of her emotions. And as the contractions began, Lena realized that, no matter what happened with Matteo, her daughter's future was just beginning. Lena had been reading a parenting book, absently running a hand over her belly, when a sharp pain tore through her abdomen. A gasp escaped her lips. Then, a rush of warmth. Her water had broken. Before she could fully process it, a familiar voice filled the room. Matteo. Though they had been living in separate suites, giving her space, he rushed in the moment he heard her cry out. Fear and urgency lined his face as he scooped her into his arms and carried her to the car. The drive to the hospital was a blur of racing lights and shallow breaths. In the sterile glow of the maternity ward, Lena gritted her teeth through every contraction, gripping Matteo's hands so tightly her nails dug into his skin. Tears streaked his face, his lips trembling between whispered apologies and encouragement. Then, after hours of pain, of laboring through a storm of emotions and physical exhaustion, their daughter was born. A piercing wail filled the room. A perfect, crying bundle of life, tiny, fierce, untainted by the past. Tears streamed down Lena's face as the nurse placed the baby into her arms. She felt Matteo's hand on her shoulder, trembling, his breath uneven. In that instant she knew life had irrevocably changed. Perhaps their marriage still hung in fragile balance, but this child, this pure innocent soul, was a symbol of something greater, a beginning. Across the hall, Alessandro, Dante, and Luca waited, restless. The moment the doctor appeared with news of a successful delivery, they erupted in cheers of relief and celebration. Moments later, they filed into the room, their usual aura of power softened by emotion. Each of them took turns pressing a gentle kiss to the baby's forehead, silent vows of protection passing between them. Through heartbreak and betrayal, scandal and redemption, Lena had emerged stronger. And she wasn't alone. She had her daughter, her brothers, and, perhaps in time, even Mateo. It wasn't a fairy tale ending, but a raw, unfiltered beginning. A promise that through loyalty, resilience, and love, even the deepest wounds could start to heal. Not every story ends with a picture-perfect happily ever after. But sometimes the strength forged through trials becomes the foundation of a new life. For Lena Moretti, discovering her billionaire husband's affair at the worst possible moment had nearly broken her. But with the unyielding loyalty of her three powerful brothers, she found the courage to confront betrayal, unravel a billionaire scandal, and welcome her beautiful daughter into the world. Her journey proves that family loyalty and resilience can turn even the darkest moments into hope. If you were moved by this powerful tale of passion, betrayal, and redemption, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support allows us to bring you more riveting, real-life drama fiction, stories of scandal, love, and the indomitable human spirit. Stay tuned for our next emotional roller coaster, and thank you for watching.